And to know more about the current and future state of Tanzania relations with Indonesia and Southeast Asia, we have in our studio the United Republic of Tanzania Ministers of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Your Excellency January Yusuf Makamba.
Welcome to the studio, Excellency.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine. I'm so happy to be here.
It's a pleasure and an honor for us here to welcome you and for you to fit us into your busy schedule. We have, a lot of very interesting questions. I'm a big fan of Tanzania because of, Kilimanjaro, Serengeti. It's in my bucket list.
Bucket list 2024.
Yes, and I'm here. I've brought some tickets and there's a draw.
We're ready.
Amen.
Pack your luggage, guy, now.
But you have to do a raffle or a draw, so let's see who gets to win. But it's a beautiful country, just like Indonesia, and we increasingly have a lot of visitors from Indonesia coming to Tanzania.
Yes,
Sounds
and
cool.
Speaking of, we've just mentioned that Tanzania and Indonesia have built quite a diplomatic relationship in the last year.
Yes.
Now, Tanzania and Indonesia have been fostering diplomatic relations since the Asia-Africa Conference, the legendary one in 1955. And while further solidifying their ties through the non-aligned move in 1961. Over the years, of course, both nations have maintained warm bilateral relations, highlighted by last year's President Joko Widodo's visit to Tanzania in August 2023. Now, one thing I would love to ask is, during the visit, Tanzania has expressed a keen interest in strengthening ties, particularly through developing a diplomatic school curriculum.
Yes.
This is really interesting. What kind of diplomatic school curriculum does Tanzania want to develop with Indonesia, and what role does Indonesia play in this matter?
You see, one of the key pillars of our relations has been our collaborative effort, as you said, in non-aligned movement and international diplomacy. And we have seen how Indonesia's diplomacy has been successful over the past 20 years. Indonesia is becoming influential in the global arena. And therefore, something about Indonesia's diplomacy must be working. And we have a diplomatic school in Tanzania, and we operate in a different region. And we believe that if we work together to exchange techniques, to exchange knowledge, to exchange certain ideas in new strategies for diplomacy, we will all benefit. So these two schools, we've decided that they should work together. We'll exchange students, professors, research, books, techniques and tricks to align our interest in the global diplomatic forums.
That certainly is rare. Because
it is.
It's rare for somebody to ask Indonesia. It's not just SOE to SOE collaborations or investments, but we want to have diplomatic relations to develop a diplomatic curriculum. Well,
okay, Mr. Makamba, just refreshing my memory back to August 22nd, 2023, Indonesia, President Joko Widodo visited Tanzania. Let's talk about economy. As we know that both countries will soon start negotiation on Provincial Trade Agreement, PTA, and also the Bilateral Investment Treaty, or BIT, to enhance the collaboration between both of countries. I just really want to know how far the negotiation is and what is the next session?
So this, as you know, these tools are very important. Both the PTA and BIT. They provide confidence to investors to come into a country, and we want to have both. As it is now, negotiations are ongoing. In terms of PTA, Tanzania is a member of East African Community, which is very advanced customs union and free trade area. Therefore, a bilateral agreement with Tanzania and another country have to be aligned with the protocol on free trade East African Community. So we have to align that, and that's what's going on. But before getting there, during this visit, we should mention that I'm here ahead of the visit of our President, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, to Indonesia. We will do a letter of intent on investment promotion and facilitation, and also we'll do a joint ministerial declaration on trade and investment. So while negotiations are ongoing on BIT and PTA, we can still work together through these other instruments to enhance trade and investment between our two countries.
Oh, it's certainly interesting. I mean, Indonesia has, expressed interest in investment as well. But we want to get to something really important. In the economic sector, we're mentioning bilateral cooperation between Indonesia and Tanzania, and we're looking at, historically, it's mostly in agricultural sectors, right? Without having to name every single commodity that we're exporting and importing, we want to talk about the climate change issue currently. And it's definitely going to affect the agricultural sector. How are Tanzania and Indonesia in terms of this particular trade relationship? Do Tanzania and Indonesia plan to build economic resilience or diversify, for instance? Because we know that climate change will affect food security in the future as well.
Of course. No, this is a very important question. As you know, both our countries have faced the tremendous impact of climate change, which has affected livelihoods, both of farmers, fishermen, and other sectors. And both Tanzania and Indonesia are party to COP process, where negotiations on a joint global effort to tackle climate change are taking place. We are quite happy with Indonesia's role and voice in that particular conversation, and we have been seeing eye to eye in terms of our common approach, especially on resources for mitigation of climate change and adaptation of climate impact. And we're very happy with Indonesia's role in the creation of a loss and damage fund and in the capitalization of that fund, in the operationalization of that fund that will enable our two countries to benefit in terms of resources that will help farmers and fishermen and cities such as Jakarta to build resilience, build infrastructure to tackle climate change.
All right. Minister, just talk more about the economy. State-owned enterprises, oil company, Pertamina, also forming strategic cooperation in the energy sectors with Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation, or TPDC in Tanzania and Zanzibar. I just really want to know, is there any follow-up of the cooperation of the oil and gas fields for both parties?
No, this is one very important area. Let me say that I was here in February last year as Minister for Energy. Yes, and I was here for a conversation with my colleague, Minister for Energy here, but also with Pertamina and other companies such as Medco, which also invests in Tanzania.
That's right.
Now, we in Tanzania are inspired by the progress which Pertamina made over the past 30 years. It started just like our own Tanzania Petroleum Corporation, but managed to build the capacity to now play at the global level.
Right.
Even to invest in Tanzania now. So the collaboration between Tanzania and Indonesia in oil and gas is very critical. And we're very happy that apart from investment that Pertamina is making in Tanzania, which it has been structured in a way that benefits Tanzania and Indonesia equally, but also the capacity building cooperation between Pertamina and TPDC to such an extent that, as you know, President Jokowi, when he was in Tanzania, they announced 100 scholarships for Tanzanian oil and gas technicians and students to come and study here. And as we speak, 5 have already here. And we expect more to be coming as time goes. And I think this generosity to share experience, to share knowledge, is critical, and we are grateful for the Indonesian government and Pertamina for doing this.
So guys, indeed, the South-South cooperation plays a significant role in the cooperation between Tanzania and Indonesia.
And we have, we want to know more about this collaborative sharing of knowledge, but we want to take a short break, Minister, in just a moment. We'll be right back with you, and we'll continue this dialogue after the break. Please stay with us for this exclusive interview with Minister General Yusuf Makamba on See Today.
Hi, welcome back to 3-Hour News Show, still with the Mr. Makamba. And now we will continue the dialogue with the United Republic of Tanzania Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Your Excellency Januar Yusuf Makamba. So we're going to talk about the desires to cooperation between the two countries. And as we know that Tanzania has expressed its desire to learn infrastructure development from Indonesia.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Indonesia has shown interest in boosting investment in Tanzania. And are there any plan for Indonesia to enhance its investment in Tanzania by engaging the infrastructure development, Minister?
Yes, we are increasingly seeing a lot of interest from Indonesian companies to come to Tanzania. So far, the biggest investor, as you know, is Pertamina. Another potentially is Medco. Another potential is a company called ESA. It's a big conglomerate that does fertilizer and others. We are seeing more and more real estate infrastructure. For us is to, the challenge is to, not a challenge, the next step is to structure these deals, these agreements, especially in financing, whether it's PPP or whether Indonesian companies come there as just EPC contractors,
right,
and build up. But the work that has happened here in Indonesia in terms of infrastructure development is very inspiring. And we are receiving a lot of inquiries from companies here to also do the same in Tanzania.
Well, that's certainly
interesting.
That's certainly a new opportunity for collaboration.
Absolutely.
Now, I would love to address another elephant in the room. You know, we want to address the blue-green economy, of course.
Yeah.
Both Tanzania and Indonesia have vast amounts of forests that could be conserved and also used as a source of income through carbon credits, right? So how is Tanzania's view on this matter, and how can both countries work together to take advantage of this opportunity that we have?
No, it's massive. As you know, Tanzania and Indonesia both share a key feature, which is the tropical rainforest in certain parts of our countries, and massive amount of natural forests that are carbon capture. Given what's going on now in the world in terms of the need for carbon sink and the development of carbon credit markets, there's a tremendous opportunity to learn from each other. So in Tanzania, we are moving ahead with a clear policy and regulation to make sure that we take advantage of the natural resources that exist in our country and provide an incentive for more conservation and protection, but also serve as a global good in terms of carbon capture. And this is an area where our two countries can learn from each other as well.
Okay, in our break session, we talked with our minister, and one of the bucket list is to visit our new capital, Nusantara. But before that, Tanzania is also in the 1974 moved its capital from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. Is that right? So we just really want to know what is in Tanzania administration in that moment and the lesson that we can share with Indonesian, the reason why you're moving the capital city. Share with us.
So, look, we made this decision 50 years ago.
50 years ago?
Yes, and we have been moving for the past 50 years ago. Although finally, 3 years ago, there was a major push for all of us to move there. So, number one, it takes a political will and the strength and political conviction to make that move. Because it's massive change. Where you move a lot of civil servants, a lot of government people who are settled and comfortable in a particular city, and to ask them to go to another city, it takes an effort. And but also you have to have not just that major political push, but you have to have an attraction pull to an area which you're moving to. That's what we learned. Therefore, key amenities in the areas which you want to move the city. Key incentives for people to move, and not only government people, but also private sector. Because cities are both built not by government alone, but also by the private sector. And all traditional old major cities emerged and existed for a particular reason, whether it was a major trade stop, a fishing town,
Right.
or so on. And Jakarta existed for a particular reason for many years. And then for this new town, just like us in Dodoma, to be thriving, we have to give it more reason than an administrative capital.
Right.
It has to be attractive, it has to be
Yeah.
beautiful, it has to be sustainable, it has to provide better amenities. And we're very happy that's what the government is doing now, from what we read, from what we see. And it's a vision, an ambitious and bold step to move the entire capital to a new area. But and each country make that choice for particular reasons. For us, is to get to a place where it's physically easier for every Tanzanian to get there.
Right.
Secondly, it's more secure. And thirdly, is the redistribution of development, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because major cities sometimes disproportionately suck in resources for
Yeah.
development. So when you have a developed city like Dar es Salaam or Jakarta, that in its own does not need an incentive to be built, and then you push an effort to another place, then you create another city that also provides life of its own. And as you know, 80% of GDP, global GDP, come from cities.
Yeah.
Right.
So the more you build better, sustainable, greener cities, the more you grow your economies, and the more that becomes an incentive for growth. So I think it's something that is worth trying and worth undertaking, and we'll see how it works here.
Well, hopefully you'll get to see it. I mean, if you are arranging a pre-presidential visit to come to Indonesia, as you mentioned before, you can fit that into your schedule, perhaps, because it might be a point of interest.
No, I will.
Shall we go?
I'm curious.
You're making us want to move, consider to move now.
Yeah.
It's
Let's go, guys.
okay, are we moving? But sir, you know, there's one thing that we would love to hear from your perspective. Now, you've mentioned that you've been to Indonesia before, and you have, you know, diplomatically also worked with a lot of your Indonesian counterparts before. What can you say about how Indonesia is navigating in terms of its influence and outreach, not just in the region, but to, you know, to your region as well? In the last couple of years, what would you have to say about that?
No, we're actually very inspired, and we look at with admiration the positive tone, voice, posture that Indonesia has taken on the global arena.
Right.
The country is standing on issues of principle, whether it's Palestine and Israel issue. Indonesia is on the right side and is doing the right thing and is fearless in its advocacy. Whether it's in empowerment of the global South as well, to have a bigger voice in international forums. We see Indonesia's contribution there. President Jokowi has been a voice, a very strong voice in the international arena for the empowerment of the countries of the global South. You know, a role that you play in the region here, in the ASEAN, in G20. The Indonesian presidency in G20 was very successful in setting the tone for how global diplomacy should be conducted. So Indonesia really is on the ascendancy now. And if you look at all the projections for the future, in terms of what's going to be the second, third, fourth largest economy in the next 50 years, always Indonesia is out there. So I think us who are friends and partners of this country only wish you well and hope that this momentum is kept. Our president, as I mentioned, she's visiting here from tomorrow, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, who gets along very well with President Jokowi. And we hope that the visit will also strengthen our relations and cooperation and partnership.
Wow. It is certainly a great, opportunity, and thank you for mentioning that Indonesia is such an inspiration to Tanzania, and we hope that we can walk the talk in terms of continuing to inspire you and to continue to this collaboration to help develop each other and learn and share knowledge for wherever means necessary. Because it's never a one-way of communication. It's never a one way of learning. Because as much as we're learning from one person, of course, the other party will learn as well.
And the most important thing, Kai and Minister, we just don't need talking about the government-to-government relations, but we need the people-to-people contact. And we hope in the near future, Indonesian society and Tanzanian society will work hand in hand to make the collaboration, like student exchange, youth cultures, and please invite CTA to come.
It's already happening. So if you look at the numbers, the number of Indonesians visiting Tanzania are tripling every year.
Every year.
Right? So 2022, we're about 110. 2023, 300. We hope in 2024, 1,000, and so forth and so forth. To a point where we will have to justify a direct flight from here to...
We need to open direct flight from Jakarta.
As direct as possible.
It is.
I want to see Serengeti and have the chance to climb up the Kilimanjaro.
Yeah,
Like, I need
let's pack our luggage. Thank you so much, Minister January Yusuf Makamba, the United Republic of Tanzania Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, to sitting with us in our studio in Jakarta, Indonesia.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much.
All right.